Hello everyone, how you doing? And welcome back to Skye and Evan in the morning. And today we're gonna be talking about a movie that just came out in theaters called Companion, starring Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher. It was your
Mhm.
recommendation, Evan. What did you think?
It it was, and I loved this movie. I It's so funny, I didn't expect too much out of it. I'd seen the trailers, and unfortunately, I'd seen the second trailer. Like, the teaser is way better than the second trailer, but I once it started, once the movie really started going, I just was in for the ride, and nothing really took me out of it. Few movies do that. It reminded me a little of Top Gun: Maverick like that. There's some movies that you just sit down and you're just like you're just in it and nothing takes you out of the experience, and this was one of them. It's just a solid all-around movie, if you ask me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. It's so interesting. It's a movie that entirely like pays off everything it sets up. It's kind of fascinating. Like
Yeah,
it's
everything with the
everything.
settings on
Yeah.
the, like, companion, like, how you the
Yeah,
sliders
the
and all that, and,
fucking
like,
well, even the car with the voice commands, like everything
yeah,
about it is
that
paid off. It was like, damn, like everything is important. When you're watching the first act, everything is important, and you think it's just like a quirky like line that they added because it was like fun for the movie. No, it was genuinely important for the movie.
Yeah, they lay out so many different clues. The first act, it's crazy how many there are. You can see Josh, like, put the knife in Iris's pocket before it happens. I don't know how did you notice that? I don't know
I
how, like,
noticed he
much
was
they
doing
wanted.
something weird. I was like, oh, did he just put his
You
hand in
could
her pocket? I
see
didn't see the knife.
you could see something go in, like
Yeah.
something, black, and I was like, "Wait," and then I was like, "That might be a knife, right?" Or something, because 'cause I'd seen the trailers, I was like, "Oh, man." And then you can see the jailbreak, like, USB instead of the, suitcase before it happened. You don't know what it is at that
Oh
point, but they
yeah,
lay that
yeah,
out,
yeah. I saw that. I
and
was like, huh, I wonder what that is. Yeah.
then just Iris go to sleep, that, like,
Oh, that was such a good line.
that
That's
she
the
just shuts
why.
up right
That was
away, it's like,
why I
"Oh."
didn't want to have. After I watched the film, I was like, this film would be such a better experience if I didn't know literally anything about it.
Yeah,
Because, but it's
yeah.
hard, right? Because I only watched the movie because like I thought it looked interesting, and it wouldn't look interesting if I didn't know about the story, and if I didn't know about the story, then I would have been sold and not watched it. But the entire
Yeah,
point is
because
that I wanted to not know about the story because if I didn't know Sophie Thatcher was a robot companion, that first act would have been so much cooler than it actually is. It's like it's
yeah,
kind of a shame.
it's such a double-edged sword because, like, obviously you don't wanna, like, reveal too much to the audience in a
Yeah,
trailer, but then how do you, like, market the actual film
yeah,
other than just creating intrigue? So I honestly didn't like, it didn't bother me that much because I was just like, it's just the first act, you know? If you know that she's a robot and you don't know, like, too much else, I don't think it, like, is film ruining, but I
yeah.
uh, I can people who have not seen any trailers or any marketing for this are in for a treat.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's it's hard though. I don't think anyone is gonna watch this film without having seen the trailers or just like, oh, there's a new movie with Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher. I don't think they're big enough names to just like sell this movie on their own, I guess. It's a shame
Yeah,
because
probably not.
genuinely, man, that first act is so much fun if you don't know, because there's so many little details that they have with dialogue, and especially the Iris go to sleep is one of the funnest ones. It's like, oh, that's great. Like it seems like he's just being
Yeah,
like a
it
bad boyfriend, just saying like, oh, shut up. No, he's literally turning her off. It's so
yeah, and then
cool.
she just shuts up right away, and you
Yeah,
just don't appreciate what that is until later. So,
yeah. But because
oh
I
man,
already
I
knew, I was
love
like,
it.
okay, that's why. But like a lot of it is really cool, and it's kind of like you have to see it from the filmmaker's perspective instead of seeing it from like the marketing perspective, or like when he's making the film, that's what his intention was, which I think is a cooler intention than just being like, oh yeah, we're gonna sell this, because like I don't think the filmmaker actually wanted to sell the movie like the marketing did, which is a shame. But
No, it's because I honestly, I would say this is like a thriller, basically. I don't think
mhm.
this ever really feels like a horror movie.
Oh yeah,
It's like a more like comedic, like, and it's like a more comedic version of something like Hush, where it's just like a thrill ride, and you're like, like it's like an escape movie rather than something where it's meant to generate horror or terror. So stuff.
Yeah, I mean
Not that
it's
this
kind
movie
of
doesn't get pretty crazy
yeah.
sometimes with the violence. This in one particular thing.
It is kind of like a horror genre to have like the cabin horror, where it's just like, oh, group goes to a
Yeah,
cabin and then something crazy happens. They need to escape.
they even lean into that when like he's like saying that it's like a cabin that's like a little bit far from the road or whatever. And it's like
It's like,
this is such a horror movie setup, and the movie's so
yeah,
aware of it.
yeah. It's like it's 27 miles off the away from the next like house. It's like okay. Uh, but it's so cool, and that was like something that I really liked when she got in the car and he gets Sergei's phone and he like the car then stops because he reported that it was stolen. I was like, oh, that's so smart. Like I was thinking, how is he
Yeah,
gonna stop it? But like that makes perfect sense. If you have automated cars,
well,
that's what's gonna happen.
the voice settings, that was such a genius move. I was
Yeah,
sitting there when he'd like when the voice ID didn't go through, and then I was like, "Oh, this is probably it. She's probably gonna get caught." And then I'm like,
yeah,
"Okay, they'll have to like come up with some excuse to like make the rest of the runtime run without it." But then like she started messing with the
messing with the
settings. I was like,
voice. Yeah,
"Oh, it's so great too." Because I love Iris's, like, intelligence. The guy lays it out when they, deliver, like, Iris to his apartment, but it's like, so 100% intelligence is like an Ivy League graduate, but you're not gonna be smarter than Einstein if you turn it up to, like, 100. It's reasonable
yeah,
intelligence. Because I was mentioning before Westworld, in that show, they do something similar where, like, the hosts get a hold of their own controls, and they can, like, turn their settings all the way up, but, like, in that show, they, like, can predict reactions of characters that they couldn't possibly react, and it's like a magic wand that they just can do anything, and they have, like, omnipotence when they can turn it up all the way. But I like how smart Iris is in this movie. They put their money where their mouth is when they turn her intelligence settings up all the way.
yeah. I was I was wondering because I was thinking, man, this is such a feminist film, but it's written by a guy. I mean, fair play. Drew Hancock. I mean, good job, man.
Yeah, and the guy has not done much. Apparently, like I never saw Barbarian, but apparently, like this is like some of the same filmmakers are involved, but the director himself, Drew Hancock, he hasn't done all that much at all. He wrote and directed this, and this is good. It looks good, and it's written well
He
as
wrote
well.
two
So
episodes
I
for the Fred TV show.
yeah, exactly. Fred.
Oh,
That's where this director comes from.
he also wrote Fred 3, Camp Fred. Okay, well, that's... You know what? I'm glad he stuck to filmmaking.
Yeah, seriously. The man locked in at some point. My
Yeah.
God.
I do hope he gets more projects after this, like, genuinely really good movie. And I compared it to Don't Worry Darling. It is such a like feminist piece of like media to just be like her breaking out of like because she even fuck, what's her name? Uh Cat?
Iris?
Is Cat her name? I think it is, right? The friend.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Cat is even like saying that she's like a trophy wife basically for Sergey.
Well,
And she was
I
like, "Oh, you
find
make
it
me feel replaceable." I was like, that was such a good line to like
well,
make the
yeah,
point
I
of the
love that
movie.
go on, sorry.
Yeah, she's just like make the point of the movie like clear, I guess, to be like, you know, like women, uh, like they feel like they like women like that. They feel like they're just like trophies for their significant other. Like they don't actually care. Like she even says like, oh, he's married. He doesn't actually like care about me. I'm just like an accessory. And that's basically what Iris is because she's like literally a robot. And I mean, it's so funny because shit, I forgot the name of the character, but Jack Quaid is always like, "Well, you're not a fuck bot,
Josh.
Josh. Yeah, you're not a fuck bot, you know, because you do so much more than that. But you know, you're an emotional support robot that I also fuck. Because it's like, there's no good way to say this. You're just using someone to
No.
have sex with
Well,
them.
honestly, one of my favorite details is like when he sets up Iris in his apartment, and then like he says like two things, and then they just show it like outside of the door that like they're having sex, and it's like because it's like yeah, it's like what yeah, hi, I'm Josh. It's like you bought that thing for one reason. You
Yeah,
really
exactly.
did. Um, yeah, but going back to Cat, I love how every because I predicted that there probably would be one other companion. I don't think it's like explicitly shown in the trailers, but like Patrick actually being one, like that was pretty clever. And I love what
I
they
did
do with
think it
Eli,
was. I
but
did like call it very early on. I don't know how early on you clocked it, but like when he
yeah,
was telling his story about the dinosaur tail, and Iris was like, "Oh yeah, that's like the story of when I met Josh." I was like, "Oh yeah, he's definitely another companion." And then I realized, oh yeah, that's why they're doing it. Like this guy, the the dude, fuck, I forgot his name. Eli. Eli is like not a conventionally attractive dude, and they made like the companion be like this super attractive like male model basically. And I was like, ah, that's clever. Like they're doing like a lot more attractive the companions are than the person they're dating. Which I thought,
yeah.
yeah, that's a
But
nice detail.
but they seemingly have like an earnest relationship,
Yeah,
which I thought that entire scene was crazy. And then Cat, like that's what's interesting about Cat is that Cat is like the rich guy's like trophy wife basically, but she's resentful of Iris because like she's just straight up what she like essentially the role that she plays.
yeah,
So I it's so funny how that's done though. Like every character like fills a role like that and tells you something about like relationships and it's just
yeah,
it's so smart the way the characters are used and the way everything is done in this movie. Like
yeah.
they're everything feels like it has a
It
point
was all very purposeful.
because with Eli and Patrick in the woods, I swear when that shot happened, just the shot of like hiding behind the tree, and then like I was just waiting for like the stick, and it happens like the stick crack and the Iris, come on out,
Well, it
but
was
it's
so
like
funny. Like, did you hear that? And then Eli's just like, and then Patrick is like, "What? I didn't hear anything." And Eli's like, "Well, that's the sound of me not giving a fuck anymore, or something." I was like, "Ah, great subversion of the trope."
well, and I swear the dialogue in this movie is so fucking funny. I love they call attention to how ridiculous the situation is a
Yeah,
ton. It reminded me a little of Ready or Not. Like it's just it's a premise that it's like on paper you wouldn't imagine would work, but like it's because they lean into it and make all these
yeah.
jokes that like I love. What are you saying? He was a dirt salesman?
Oh, it's
You
so
just
funny.
assumed he worked for the mafia. Oh god.
Yeah,
It's I love
you
it.
said you worked for the mafia. I just never contradicted that. I was like, "Oh, okay." So stupid. The Cat and Josh are so fucking stupid, but like in a very good way. Like,
Well, the way she gets killed, that was I love how she just like sits down on the couch and
well,
it's
I
just
love that she's just like Josh, just shut the fuck up for once. So I was like, yeah,
yeah. Because it's not enough to like kill her then and there, but she's like, oh, that's basically it. I'm gonna bleed out.
yeah. I mean,
Oh
yeah,
my
because at that
god.
point it's just like, fuck me, man. Like, did you really get me killed? Because you're so stupid. It's so funny, especially because like, well, not especially, but I also really like how like there's um so many examples of like Josh being like a terrible person even before everything before he realizes we realize everything that's
Yeah.
going on because like one of the greatest moments is like Eli is like, well, you two going together, are you two fucking? And Cat is like, ew, and Josh says, no, wait, ew. It was just like he's just like he doesn't understand how she could be grossed out by him, but as we understand his character more later on in the film, we understand why a woman would be grossed out by him. It's really well made. It's a movie literally about like an incel who buys a girlfriend
Yeah.
and the girlfriend just takes revenge on him, but it is done so well.
Well, I love that they just like the robot premise like cutting through like it just is the simplest way to explore that idea because I was describing it to you as like Josh being the epitome of like male bitterness and
Oh
like
yeah.
not having luck and you get mad at that, you, like, take it out on other people or, like, take it out on the people you know, and I love that line, "I'm decent." He says, like, I'm decent."
I'm
Of like,
decent.
I'm alright, and what do I have to show for it? It's like, a small, a
Uh,
shitty apartment
Shitty
and, like, a
apartment with one
robotic
room and a
girlfriend. It's like
robot girlfriend that I rent. I didn't even, I don't even
yeah,
know
you have
you.
to
I
fucking
rented you. This fucking rental. I was like, oh, that's hilarious. And I
oh
was
my
wondering,
god.
like, if you have such a small house, how are you gonna have the girlfriend? And he was just like, I don't even know you. You're a rental. That made me laugh so much.
Yeah.
The thing with
Josh
this
is
movie is that a lot of the people that were watching it with me didn't laugh at like the funniest jokes. They laughed at like the obvious ones. But like that one, the rental line, I was laughing so much, and everyone in my theater was just like quiet. I was like, "Come on, do you not understand this joke? It's so good."
yeah, I kept cracking up. I think it was the same where I think the theater was more invested in the thriller sides. Like,
Uh-huh.
I couldn't stop laughing, at
Oh
least
yeah,
with
I
the
laughed so
dialogue.
much. The film is hilarious, and it is so cleverly funny. Like all the jokes are really really clever. Because it doesn't treat the audience as stupid, which it should have, I guess, because clearly the audience in both our theaters did not understand the jokes all that well. But yeah, it's such a smart movie. I was laughing so much, like especially the subtler jokes were really good. And it's
Yeah.
just it's
Uh,
so funny how it's just like he's explaining like because I was like, oh, did the robot like malfunction? Like they said the the Iris couldn't hurt anyone. It's like, well, I modded her. I just started laughing like, oh, of course you did. Because by that point I thought he was just like an accident. They just wanted to test out what Iris could do, and then I realized that they actually wanted to kill Sergey. It was like every time they revealed something, I'm like, Jesus Christ, these characters
yeah.
are
Oh
so
man,
much worse than I thought.
the phone. Oh my god, one of my favorite jokes is when he gets Sergey's phone and then he's like Stalin's birthday. She's Kat said that like
Ah,
Stalin's
Stalin's
birthday was his
birthday.
code for
What the
everything, and
fuck is
he
Stalin's birthday?
yeah, he doesn't have Google, so he's gonna look up a
Yeah,
book.
he looks up on his books. It's hilarious.
Oh my god. That's
And
it's
again, a
that kind of a
great
movie
setup and a
though.
payoff, right? Because it's like she says
Yeah.
it's the same password as everything when she opens his safe. It's a Stalin's birthday. We're like, okay, just a funny throwaway joke, and then you're like, oh no, it actually comes back into play because it needs to unlock Sergei's phone, and it needs to figure out Stalin's birthday, and it's just a hilarious moment where he's like, ah, Stalin's birthday. What the fuck is Stalin's birthday?
Yeah,
Oh,
not
it's so
exactly the
good.
thing most just know off the top of their
Yeah.
head. Oh my god. And Lucas Gage as well, like, I was stunned by his
Oh
performance. He
yeah, he
was
was really
really,
good.
really good. Both, like, when he was Patrick beforehand and, like, was just Eli's companion, like, that scene in the woods, like, he says he figured it out, like, that he was a robot a long time ago, and it, like, he still cares for him, and I was like, he sold it so well.
Yeah.
And then, like, after he becomes just the T-1000, like, he's still, like, he goes stoic really well and plays like emotionless great. So he impressed me in this movie, Lucas Gage.
Yeah, you're genuinely really good. You keep calling me like a show stealer or something. I mean, for me, it's Sophie Thatcher. I can't. She was. I love her so
Yeah,
much, but I can
star of
understand.
the show, and he killed it in this role.
Yeah, I love. I don't know if you. I think I've mentioned it to you before. Yellow Jackets, a TV show. That's basically like
Yeah, yeah,
modern day Lost, and she is one of the stars of that show. And ever since I watched that show, I'm like, oh, I love her so much. She's such a good actress. It's so nice to see her like star in her own movie. It's really cool. But it's what I said. It's so weird because like big part of her character and what I like so much about her in Yellow Jackets is her personality. And in this movie, she doesn't have any personality because that's the entire thing. You buy a robot that like has the semblances of like personality and memories and everything, but they're not like actually human, so they're not actually like people, and that's why she doesn't have any personality until the end of the movie, which is why I mentioned one of my favorite lines in the movie was her saying, "That was my first lie. You know what? I liked it. I see the appeal." Because
I
it's like,
see the
oh,
appeal.
oh, that's such a Sophie Thatcher thing to say. It was great.
I did also like that the oddities with her like describing this like a piece of you being missing or something like that, or like something broken that like
Mm-hmm.
is fixed by like another. there's oddities to how Iris talks, and you realize that later on. It's like it's because she literally can't lie. Like
Yeah.
she just tells the truth, so maybe she's a little more forward. And I think that's also like the smile and pretend to be happy thing. It's like the, she's almost too sincere. She's too straight and too honest. So there's like a sense of faking it that you get like from her consistently until the ending when she like just gets her own autonomy.
Yeah, I mean that's what's so fun because she's like forced to smile the entire movie and just not be like a person, and then at the end she's just smiling and driving the car and laughing. You're like, ah, it's nice. It's like it's very cathartic. And then she sees another version of the robot that's exactly like her
Yeah.
on the guy's car, and she just waves with her robot hand. I'm like, ah, this is so cool. She's just gonna break that person out of their like robot life as well, just for like showing them that they're a robot. That was like a really cool moment.
Yeah, I dug that. I love the music as well in the end credits. The soundtrack consistently is fantastic.
Yeah.
There's some bangers on there. Um, oh god, yeah.
Shit,
It's
it's just a movie that impressed me so much. I think it's the first
yeah,
2025 movie I've seen. It must be. I don't think
I
I've
think
seen any
so.
other movie that released this year yet.
Well, and hilariously enough, it's technically a January movie. This never happens. Like good January like horror thrillers, like they're always dog shit and like just slapped into theaters, but not this one.
Yeah.
I was just like I said, I was just in for the ride. I was stunned that like nothing really took me out of it. Like it's very smartly written and smartly put together, and it has a lot to say about relationships and
Yeah.
about like, modern issues with dating and with like, getting to know people. And it's 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 a great film.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting because there's like this genre of movies, I guess, it's just like the feminist, like the entire point is like the you feminist statement. And we've seen one from Alex Garland, which is very funny and not very good, which is called Men. And it's funny, like it's always like when these movies are made by men, it's always like, oh, but genuinely, man, like fuck, I forgot his name, Drew something. Um,
Drew Hancock or
Hancock,
something,
yeah.
yeah.
But like genuinely, I'm really impressed by him, and I think he can do a really good job about writing about this. It might just be like a thing where
What?
it works like even
I
regardless of gender, even though it is like a feminist idea, because of like Patrick also being a man and in a gay
Yeah,
relationship and
exactly.
everything.
Yeah, Patrick and Eli are a thing, and then Kat also is like, kind of a trophy wife. Because I think the movie's more about like relationships and like feminism or anything
Hmm.
like that. It's not just criticizing like straight relationships. It's criticizing like relationships in general in a modern context. So it's those isms. I think they could like speak to everybody and then men and
Yeah,
women
I think
alike
you're
would like
right. Like
get
even
it.
the idea of like you date someone you don't really like see them or something. It's like regardless of gender that could happen. Yeah, you just see them as like something that loves you instead of like a person you actually care about. So yeah, I think
Yeah,
that can be like viewed as like a universal experience. But yeah, just
yeah.
really good movie.
Yeah, I gave it an 8 out of 10 on Letterboxd, and I feel comfortable with that rating
Yeah.
as I'm just like there. It's not quite like like something that's like a 10 out of 10 or anything like that. But I did nothing that I think is a shortcoming of this movie is anything like detrimental. It's just not quite like top of the mountain, but like for just a thriller, it's pretty much dead on. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I could ask for anything more out of a thriller,
Yeah.
let alone like for as much as it like has to say like on a thematic level.
Yeah, I mean, I give it a 9 because I genuinely I can't find like much wrong with this movie. It just felt weird giving it a 10 because I was like, okay,
Yeah, yeah,
because
exactly.
like a lot of the times when I'm rating things, it's just like the vibe. I love this movie, but I can't. The vibe of giving it a 10 is too weird, so I didn't give it a 10.
I felt the same, but
Yeah,
I
hard to
I
follow
would
this movie
recommend
though.
this
It's just like a
heavily.
really really smart, like really cleverly written, really tightly written. That's also something I love. It's 90-minute movie and it doesn't need to be any shorter
Yes.
or longer. It's the exact right length it needed to be. There's no
Yeah,
padding,
and
but there's no like rush for anything. Everything works perfectly.
No, the only that was my only thing, honestly, was the ending. I did think it was a little dragged out the way when, like, Josh, like, starts overtaking Iris and is like, "You're a part of me." Like, it's a little drawn out. I know they wanted it for the corkscrew kill, but I'm like, other I was waiting for that because that was what I was mentioning with the car. I'm like, "Oh, god damn it, we still got, like, 30 minutes left, so she's gonna get her in, and there's gonna be something she'll do to fucking escape." But it's like, there's nothing like that. There's nothing that, like, takes you out of the movie that, like, is that weak part where it's like, "Oh, it's great, but you gotta get through that." Like,
Yeah. Like, oh,
they
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 only
just
did this
use
because they wanted that scene or something. Like, there's nothing like that. Like, everything just flows
no.
really, really well.
It's 90 very well-crafted minutes worth of
Yeah.
movie, so
Honestly, it feels like a movie I'm gonna be rewatching for years because it's so fun. Like, it's
yeah,
such a vibe.
I can't wait for it to come out on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I wanna rewatch it. There's a lot of detail, there's a lot, that's uh, and it seems like a rewatchable movie because of
Yeah.
how entertaining it is, so
Yeah. I feel the same way. So, yeah. Is that it?
I think so, yeah. Companion is a huge recommendation for
Yeah.
me.
Big thumbs
Good
up.
date movie.
Yeah. Um, all right. Well, big thumbs up from me too. I really, really enjoyed it. And well, now it's time, Evan, for me
Now,
to recommend
it
something.
it is indeed. What do you have up your sleeve, Skye?
Well, I was thinking last night because, like, obviously I told you I have a list of like movies that I want to recommend for the podcast, and I was just thinking like, maybe this, maybe that, and then after I watched that movie, I was like, oh, I have to, so I will. I recommend "Don't Worry, Darling" by Olivia Wilde. It's a movie that I actually think is good, even
Interesting.
though people dislike it. And this movie reminded me, Companion reminded me so much of Don't Worry, Darling. Though I think Companion is a much more tightly written, and funner movie. Don't Worry, Darling is fairly somber, I guess. So yeah,
That seemed apparent from the trailers, but
yeah.
I know damn near nothing about that movie, so
It's
I'm
kind of good
going in
going into it
blind.
without knowing much. I think it makes the experience more interesting. Um, But yeah, I think it's good. And people all like to clown on Harry Styles' acting. I actually think he's good in that movie. So
He hasn't impressed me greatly in the films I've seen, but I'm sure he's fine. I, I don't know.
yeah, I mean it's Florence Pugh's movie anyway, since there's just not much from.
Yeah, yeah. She always seemed to be the star of the show, so
Yeah, and I like Olivia Wilde. That's a hot take to say nowadays, I think, because a lot of people don't like her. But yeah, I like her, and so I'm I really recommend it. I think it's a good movie, and so we're gonna talk about that next week. Maybe you won't like it, and then it'll be an interesting discussion. Um,
we'll see. God knows a lot of people seem to not like it, so
yeah,
you never know.
we'll see. But yeah, going back to back with two movies that are fairly similar, but oh well. Um, I do think it'll be an interesting discussion though, and yeah, I think that's it then, folks. We'll catch you next week with "Don't Worry, Darling."
Catch you next week, everybody.
Bye bye.